So in this video, what we're going to look at is how we can arrange what we've got in each individual track into an actual track itself, into a song itself. So as you saw in the previous video when I was just working through doing bits and bots, I've basically created this. It's also got a riser in there, which I didn't play, but that is basically just a riser. And it pans left to right. So I did that in the previous video. So if you want to have a look at how I did stuff like that, that is in the previous video. Just click on the markers at the bottom and it takes you straight to that actual thing that I've done. So I've got my drums laid out, the bass, the bits and bots, but I want to add a bit of vinyl sort of type crackle in there. So what the SP404 is for is I'm going to take the audio from that, the effect from that, record it in, and I'm going to assign that to a track. So if I click on this MFX button, what you'll see is that we can have all these different effects. I'm going to focus on the vinyl sim, or maybe the cassette sim. And all I'm wanting is the noise. I'm not going to send any audio through from this. I just want the noise from it. So if I go into the 303, I've got it set up now because you can hear it. But if you can't hear it, then just click on function. Just click on, I'll stop that. Just click on function and then function and mod, basically. And on your last page, which is 5 of 5, you'll see that you've got an external mixer. Just make sure that your in and out is set to a reasonable level. I don't usually take it all the way to the top. I usually just leave it on 100. We don't want any delay or send it to delay, reverb or chorus. So just leave it like that. So then that means we can hear it. Whereas if it were off, you won't be able to hear it. So I'm going to I'm also using this in stereo mode. So if you've got it in dual mode, that means you can control the left and right channels individually. Mine is just on dual mode. So the left and right channels, it's basically a stereo input. So I want to go back to my sample recorder, and I think I'm going to record this over 16 steps. So when I turn that on, I'm just going to set my threshold to maybe there, and I'm going to arm it. All I'm going to do then is just press the MFX button, and then that should be recording, and it will record over 16 steps. So yeah, let's do that now. And you'll see it's recording into the actual Digitakt itself. That for me is actually too long of a sample, because what I will notice in there's a loop. It looks like there's a loop, it's not random. I could randomize it myself if I maybe did something like that. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press no, and I'm going to reduce this down to maybe 32 steps. No, 64 steps. I'll go 64 steps. So I'm going to arm it, and I'm going to play it again. So the reason why I'm doing that is just to save on room within my drive itself. So now that is recorded in, if I press function and yes, you can hear that I've got that sample now in my Digitakt. So I'm just going to quickly just do this. Next thing, I'm going to assign that to track 16. So I've assigned that sample now to track 16. I'm going to come off of that by pressing function and node just to get it back to its normal place. And now what we'll have on track 16 is the actual vinyl crackle. But I need to clear some stuff off first because I must have done something. So that's my vinyl crackle. So I'm going to try and make a pattern over this, but I don't want it to be over the full 128 bars. So I'm going to just maybe put this down to, let's just do 16. Let's just do one page for now. And then I'm going to probably put triggers in just randomly and see how it sounds. And then move the head over. That's probably a bit too much. So if I just do one trigger, I can do the full length. So 16 steps, I'll say. I'll just turn that to 16. But then I could use the randomization feature from an LFO and randomize the position of that. So if I just clear these off, I will go back to this and I will go to, we know we're on the source page, so we want the SRC and then we want the start time. So if we just click on that, randomize pattern, and every time it triggers, we want it to start in a new place. So let's just see what this is doing. I'm going to turn the slope as well just a bit. So I've set my start point to more or less the middle of the sample. So when I've clicked on this depth, it can either go left of that start point or to the right of that start point. And the slew mode is just there just to give it that randomization. So I will do it maybe like that. And then I could probably add some more points in. And then we are randomizing the vinyl crackle within that sample itself. So it's always going to be changing into something new, which gives it that human feel, that not the human feel, but that vinyl feel. So if I just unclick all that, you can tell it's not a loop now because it's randomized. It's randomizing its position every time I've triggered. The only thing you'll notice is the triggering point. So to slow that down, we could either take less off, or we could shift the trigger points to something that is in more synced with our track. So let's say, for example, kick. So this is triggering on the upbeat rather than the downbeat. So I quite like that as an intro. There are other stuff that we could probably do with this. We could add some more sample rate reduction, beat rate reduction, just to give it a bit more noise. Not going to go too crazy on it because it's just going to get in the way. And then we can take some of the frequencies out on the bass and maybe the highs. Maybe just glue it all together a bit and then bring the level of the track down to suit. We could also do with that, go back to the LFO page and set up a fixed sidechain. So if I go to my amp page volume, so if I've set this volume to whatever it is, I want to then sidechain that to the rhythm. So if I then look at my LFO speed chart, I will set this to I want it over 1/4 timing. So if I set that to, there's multiple ways you can do it, but I'm going to set it to 32, and then this is going to be on 16. I'm going to set up the sidechain, so that what that means is it basically is going to ramp up, so it's going to go from 0 position up to whatever position it is. So I need to set this at a low volume because it's going to ramp up. And you can see we've got that nice or we could do it randomly. So we could act that maybe as a dropout in audio. So every time it is triggered, it's going to randomize the position of the volume. Maybe a bit too much highs in there. Just want that crackle, just something in the background. So that's how we can do that. If we don't like it, we can just turn it off for now. We could have that as his intro, and then when the beat comes in actually in maybe verse 1, let's say, we could bring that in to add a bit more groove to our pattern and for it to suit what it needs to suit. So next thing we're going to look at is how we copy the patterns over. So as I said, we've got this as our main track elements. So that's the main track elements. So to copy a pattern over, we want to hit the pattern button, hold the actual pattern number down, press copy. You'll see at the top of the screen it says copy pattern. We want to go over to, let's say, the next page, click on pattern again, hold that down, and then press paste. And all that now has been pasted into the second page or the second pattern. So if, for example, we wanted an intro, a verse sort of pattern, a bridge, a chorus, so like all the main elements together, then we can do that here. So I'm just going to copy that over again to there and to there. So the main one on number 1 is copied through all of the 4. So I'm just going to go back to number 1 and I'm going to start to pick and choose what I want to happen within this pattern now. So if I so let's say I just want that, I could have that within the pattern, or I could program it up so this here comes in at a later point. So instead of it starting straight away, I want it to go through a full bar, let's say. So if I want that to play on bar 4, let's say, I've noticed that this has 8 obviously pages selected. So if I click on the page menu First of all, I just want to check that I've not got any more triggers on the actual track itself. So if I go back to the first page, I know that that trigger there is throughout the whole 8 pages. So if I click on that as a page, I want to reduce them pages down to half. So if I just go on 64, I can come out of that then, and then when this gets to the end, I want it to start. So then I will need to add a condition. So if I click on the number 1, and obviously we want it to play through once and then start to play. So if I set the condition to 2/2, what it'll do is it'll play one. It won't play the first time through, but on the second time it will. So if I just do that now. And then that is a nice sort of way to introduce your track. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm just going to rework it in my own time, just so that you're not sat there watching me. So I'll rework each section, but that is what I would do to get my different track into different elements, or my different patterns basically as a different element of the track. So 1 was going to be intro, 2 is going to be the verse, 3 the breakdown, 4 chorus, and so forth, so forth. I tried to keep it intact in these 8 tracks, just so that I can get 2 songs per pattern, because as we light these up, that's going to be 1 song, 1 to 8, and then the next song will be 9 to 16. If there are situations where I do need to use more, then I will use more, and then I'll just leave them blank, and then go on to my next sort of bank, should I say. So my next bank, and then it'll start again. But as it is now, I'll just get together a little sequence. I'll do that off air, and then that'll be ready for the next video. So to continue with this video, I would like to rename each pattern that I am going to be working on. So for example, pattern 1 is going to be the intro. So to rename a pattern, all we do is click on the settings button, we go down to pattern, and then we click rename. By pressing function and no, we delete what's on the screen. By pressing function again, it brings up the keyboard. So I'm just going to put this as intro. And then when you click yes, you'll see that that pattern has now been renamed to what it is that you've renamed it. In my example, it's intro. If I click on pattern 2, you'll see that's untitled. So I'll need to go again and rename it. So I'm going to put this as, let's say, verse. Verse 1. And then that way, what you can do then, when each pattern you're on, you can basically see where it is in the track that you are at. So if you're performing live, you know exactly where you're at, you know exactly what that pattern is going to do for you. So this is why it's a good thing to mix and just to listen to the pattern the whole way through, just to make sure that you've got a good blend between the start point and the end point, and going into different patterns as well. So this one, for example, it's got a nice blend between the start and it carries on. So that's the start point. We've got a string coming in on the the 5th bar. And then that carries on. After. We've also got the whoosh and then the little effect. But to be fair, that whoosh really could just be doing it every 16 steps or whatever. So to alter that, we can just go into this page. I've started it on the 5th bar. So if I say, right, I just want you to play, let's say on the 2/2. So we've got this now, so it won't play this first time, it'll play this second time round, which gives us longer. It gets us that string noise coming in. That string noise carries on. We've also got as effect and then now that you can hear it coming in now. So that is a good way just to blend from one to the next, and just to make sure that what I like to do as well is when I press play on that, I like to just think that I could leave that on forever and it'd sound well. It blends from the start point to the end point. It blends well together. So with that, we've learned how to rename. We've learned how to just go in and out of patterns. And once we've done as patterns, then so as intros, verses, this is that, we could then basically add automation as well to that. So if, for example, I just take this and I copy this pattern and I put it on number 6, and then I'll paste it again on number 7. So if I go into number 6, which is this, and I have, let's just say this bass noise. I'm going to bring this bass noise in. See, that's quite nice as it is. So that might be, you might be able to add that in to your intro, but on the next pattern. It's just a way of how it feels for you, really. But automation wise, this, I basically want it to do this. So I want the filter to open and move, but I want to draw that in myself. To do that is just, it's simple. You just got to press the copy and clear button or the record and play button. And you'll notice now that we have these yellow buttons flashing. What that means is that there is automation within that track. So that way you can basically do whatever it is that you want. You can make things move within your track, and it's just a good way to add another piece of ear candy into what it is that you're doing. So I'm just going to work on my patterns in the meantime, and then we'll come back and then we'll try and add a bit of automation just to get them sort of that mixing between elements, between patterns done. And then hopefully then we've got a track that we can use. We can basically go into song mode then, and then create a song out of this. We can then look at getting that into our DAW and maybe making some final changes to it so that we can utilize what we've done on this and maybe add more things to it, or even take things away within our DAW itself. Like I said, this is a sampler. It's a great live performance, so if you get the elements between each one right, you can basically just click on whatever and you'll think, oh, that sounds nice, or that pattern to that pattern, that sounds nice, and you can just do it in a live environment. And also with the other features as well, like if you wanted to take everything out, you can obviously press track and then take the filter all the way down. You can do whatever. So yeah, I'll work on this in the meantime. I won't bother showing it. I'll jump back and I'll come back on, and then we'll do what we just said. So I've got my song together now, and what I've got is a total of 8 patterns. So if I press the pattern button, we can select or see what different patterns I've got. So on the first pattern, I've got intro 1. On the second one, I've got intro 2. And then I've got break, main 2, break 2, a bridge sort of thing, and then an outro. So there's a lot of selection there that I can utilize to make a song out of it. So we're going to look at song mode now. So the thing about your patterns and what I like to do is that I like to make sure that no matter which pattern I press, the transition between each patterns are good. So I've done all that here. So the sequence that I have chosen to do is similar to the other video that I did in the Digitakt 1 series. So this is going to be similar to that, but I'm not going to go in total depth in the song mode. I'm just going to make the song up and how we do it in the Digitakt 2. To enter chain mode, all I do is press pattern and then function and yes. And then what that does is it says, right, you've got your pattern now. So I can go left and right to select my bank. And obviously I'm in bank A at the moment. This is where all my patterns for this particular song is. So I'm basically just going to press in there twice, 3 times, once, twice, and then so forth. You can make your song up like that, and when you come out of that, or when you start to play it, so you press yes to confirm, this will now play a chain. So if I press start, we're starting with the intro, and then you'll see after it's played through that twice in my chain, it will go onto the next part of that chain. So if we go back into the chain setting, we can see that it's now been empty because I've started up a new chain. We can basically then pick our patterns to what we want to do, and so forth, so forth. The one thing that I do want to show you on this as well is on a pattern, we can select how long the pattern is going to be. So for example, if you've got conditions and stuff in there that exceed the 8 pages, or you want only it to be a page long, then all we do is go and press function and page. And on this one now, what we have is obviously the track number 10, which is what we're on. That's the length of the track, and then the speed of the track. So this is how you can create subdivisions within that track itself. And then we have pattern. So your pattern is the pattern length. So we have 2 settings. We have change and then reset. So change is the pattern length before it changes over to a new pattern. So if I just come out of that, if I am in this pattern, let's say, it will go through, as in this example, 384 steps before it is allowed to change to another pattern. So if I go back to this one and I go on page again, the reset is when it resets. So if it's basically running through the pattern, it'll reset itself at 384 steps. So you can get polyrhythms that way as well by doing and utilizing the reset button for that. So if, for example, I have this at 4 steps, we have 16, 32, 64 steps altogether. And I want it to reset after 32. What it would do is it would only play the first 2 pages, and then it would reset. It won't play the full thing through. So if I just come out of that, I've set all this up prior to this. So now what I'm going to do is enter song mode. So to enter song mode, I just press song. I basically want to select number 1 as my song, because this is what I want to edit. And then to go into the actual song edit itself, we just hold function and then press song down. What I want to do is I want to add or insert a row. So I'm going to press function and down, and then this adds a row. So on this row, my pattern is going to be A1 because the pattern is on bank A and then that's selected 1. So I want that to run through twice, and then I would like to add another one, but this time I want that to be A2. And then I want to set these labels up so I know exactly what they are. And because I've labeled them up already, I'm just going to select pattern name. So on this pattern, you'll see intro 1. Pattern here is intro 2. If I go back onto song edit mode, it's not got enough space for it to be intro 1, intro 2, but it is intro 1, intro 2. And then I'm just going to basically just put in my sequence that I've already done, and then I'm just going to put it into this as a song mode. So as you can see, I have selected my song mode, so I've basically done it to the pattern that I think will suit. And what that is now is basically that is my song in song mode. So as you can see, if I come out of that, you'll see at the top that I have a 0, 1 out of 10. So if I just go back into the song mode and just go down, so at the end I can either stop the song altogether, or I can loop it back from the start. I'm going to stop it, so I'm just going to click no out of that, and now this song is set. What I do want to do with the song though is rename it. So if we go into the settings tab again and I just come out of that, I can go into song and then S01, which is the song that we're in. I will just put this as DT2 VS. And now that song is renamed. So if I just come out of that and I go back into my song mode, you'll see at the top now DT2 VS has been renamed for this song. So if we was in a live environment and this song had just been played out, I could basically press song then and then go on to my next track, and then I could press play. And this is a good way to set up your track and your music that you've made, so you can just basically you can basically be hands-on with other things. So if you had an effects unit outside of this, like this for example, the SP404, this is great for effects. So if I took the audio out of this into here, then out of this to my out, I could then utilize the different things on here, the different effects on here, whilst the track is playing, and then I'd be more hands-on to making the song more interesting than what it is already. So I'm just going to play this song through now from start to finish. It should stop, and then what I did want to do next is I wanted to record each and every track into my DAW, but because of the limitation that we've got at the moment with Overbridge, I can only send the output through the main output, so 1 and 2. So my DAW is not picking up on each individual track just yet until Overbridge is going to be released. So that's the track. There's a couple of things that I'd like to do, but like I said, I would probably bring that into my DAW now and rework it from there. So like the sweeps and stuff like that, instead of programming in that, it's time consuming. Because I'm not going to be using this in a live environment, I might as well just record this straight into my DAW and do it from there. A good little trick as well that you come across. This came from a question on the YouTube page. It was basically how can you route MIDI into itself to free up, well, to give you more LFOs basically. So what we have to do to utilize this. So for example, on this audio track, I have this sound. And what that's doing is I'm utilizing all three LFOs. So LFO 1 is basically on the tune, LFO 2 is on the volume, and LFO 3 is on the source level. I want to control the filter within LFO as well. So what I can do with that is I need an audio track. So if I had another device, I could route that in. But in this example, I'm just going to route the MIDI from the output into the input. I'm going to use track 16 for this. So I'm just going to select machine and then go down to MIDI. So this track now, track 16, is MIDI. And what I want to do is I want to send the MIDI from this track out and back into itself to track 12. So what I need for that is a cable to do this. So I've connected the MIDI out to the in by using just a cable. And what I want to do is select the channel, that is channel 12. So if I go into my settings page and go down to MIDI config, you can select your channels. So on channel 12, I want that to be number 12. I'm just making sure that no other numbers are using that MIDI channel. So if I go back to my MIDI channel, I want to turn this on by pressing function and then pushing down on the encoder. Set this to channel 12. So if I press this now, this should trigger, which it does, which is good. So if I go on to my next page, I want to turn on the CC value, and then I want to turn on CC select. So in order to control the frequency of channel 12, I need to select the CC number. Now in the manual, you will find on page 103 onwards, you will find the CC number of the different parameters. So because I want filter, the filter frequency number or the CC number is 74. So if I just hold down this, you will notice that number 5, so E, that is 74. So if I go back onto this page and I just take that off and I turn on number 5, this now should be controlling the filter when I press this. Which it is. So we can then utilize the LFO on the MIDI track to control this parameter. So if I go onto the LFO page 1 or 2 and I want to select the destination, which is CC value 5, because on this it's a CC value, we chose number 5, I can then basically have and utilize this other LFO to do what I want it to do. Not really getting the right effect out of it, but you can open up the possibilities. Let's say, for example, I wanted to control the bitrate reduction. So if I just go back into this and then go into my CC select, I will then look at the MIDI configuration numbers in the manual. So I want the bitrate reduction, which is 54, and then what I'll do is I'll just turn that off, go back onto this, and then I'll select this to be number 54. Go back onto this page, turn this on, and now that is controlling the bitrate reduction. So if I just turn this to CC value 1, which is what we had on this page, this LFO is now controlling that CC value, which is going to the bitrate reduction on track 12. So if I go onto track 16 now, and I have set this up to be what it is, you will notice that when I hold the trigger down, it will basically make that parameter in track 12, which is the bitrate reduction, go up over time. So if I just set this to 4, which will be a lot quicker. And then you can have more sound design options available to you. You can basically use the other LFO that is in the MIDI tract and control another parameter within that sound itself, which just opens up even more sort of space for you to basically make a soundscape or a sound design even more than what it is. And you're not limited by one track. You could have one sound, and you could have all these tracks to be MIDI track controlling each a different parameter within that. So you've basically got 50, you got another 30 LFOs basically controlling one track. So 33 LFOs that could potentially control one track if you basically set up that one track to control a different parameter within that. I'm not sure that you'd want to do that, but the option's there if you just think, you know what, I might as well give it a go. But that's just a cool little trick that I thought were quite good. So now that we've got this track sort of done, I wanted to show you what perform is on the Digitakt. So if I just press function and then song and then select the song that I'm on, I've obviously shown you this song already. So if I wanted to play this live, I could basically change the parameters within this kit and it wouldn't save onto the actual pattern itself whilst in perform mode. So to go into perform mode, what we're going to do is press on function and then press on the perform button. Now the perform kit is on, so you'll see the little flashing P that comes up. This shows you that whatever parameters you change, they will not be saved into the patterns that you've already done up. So if I just start to play this, and for example, I mess about with some settings. All this lot on every track. Stop it. That is saved on the actual track itself, but when I come out of that and I now press play, none of that what I've just done has been saved on the original patterns themselves. So that is good for performance in the live sort of thing. So you can basically tweak your parameters to whatever you want it to do on each track and not have that worry that it's getting saved into the actual pattern itself. So as I've just mentioned in the perform mode, if you're in the live environment, it's good as well to add effects maybe to your performance. So the way that you can do that on this is you can do it as we just said in the performance mode. You can go on to your different parameters, press the track, and if you've selected all the tracks, that is by going into the setup menu and onto this page, you can select different tracks that you want to use as an overall performance. So if I was on the track, for example, and I've selected 1 to 8, that would mean that when I press the track button down, I could then tell tracks 1 to 8's reverb to increase all the way up or all the way down respectively. Or the other thing that you could do is if you had that option is to utilize other equipment that you've got. Now I've got the SP404. I mainly bought this for the effects, and the price point from the effects on this was just you get a lot of value for your money. Although this is a sampler as well, I mainly did get this for the effects. So if I was in the song mode that I just did, and I basically come into my song itself and I wanted to play this live, I would go into my Perform Kit Live on, so I could utilize the stuff within the Digitakt. But then I've also routed this output to the input of my SP404. So when I start to play this track, I can then use the onboard effects on the SP404 as a main sort of effect unit. So as you can see, you can do all sorts of things with that. What you could also do is, instead of routing this to your actual output, you could reroute this back into your Digitakt too. So if you're just wanting to utilize some of the effects and stuff that you have available to you, then you could do that by basically rerouting the audio that's coming out of your Digitakt through this device and then rerouting that back in. So let's say if I had this chorus sound, for example, I'm just going to mute every other track, and I wanted a different chorus than the actual chorus that is on here. So if I just play this, I would click on my MFX button here and I will go to Juno Chorus. Now Juno Chorus is that famous chorus. I don't want any noise. Just play this. And then we've got a totally different chorus that is on the actual Digitakt itself. You could then use your effects that are on this. So for example, in my example, I've got the Juno chorus to bring that back in, and then I could even add even more chorus onto that itself, cook that, basically that sample back into itself, and then rework it that way. So it's just another idea that you can have if you've got anything out there. You don't need the SP404, you don't need any of that. You could basically route this into your DAW and use some of your DAW's stock plugins. You could use their chorus or whatever. You can bring that back out into your Digitakt too, and then you could record new unique sounds that way, but then tweak them within this itself to get the sounds that you want, basically. Even though the chorus is good in this, I quite like it. There is that other option where you can just route the audio out to whatever it is that you're wanting and then bring it back in and record audio back in that way. Like, that sounds really good. It's obviously doing it with a full mix now, but you can isolate sounds, take them out of the Digitakt and bring them back in, and that's just another way that you could really hone in on the soundscaping with this, go out and then come back in and rework it even more. Just takes you on a journey to whatever you want to do, really. So that, I just wanted to show you that. It just gives you another option just to create more sounds within the Digitakt. So yeah. So in this last bit, what I would like to show you is how you can sidechain using the compressor within the Digitakt. So in order to understand this, what we have on the setup page is we have compressor routing. Now, compressor routing is basically telling you what tracks do you want to select that is going to be routed into the actual compressor itself. So let's say my kick on track 1, I don't want that to be routed in there unless I'm doing an overall mix and trying to control the level overall. I don't want that to be routed in there. I just want every other track other than my kick to be routed into the compressor. So if I come out of that now, I press function and then mixer. It's on page 1 of the mixer page, and on this page we have different settings. So at the top here you can see we have the threshold, the attack release, the makeup gain, the ratio, the SCS, the sidechain, so the sidechain source, the sidechain frequency, and the dry and wet, basically. So you have it fully dry or fully wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that I want to activate this compressor using the kick drum. So on the SCS page, or the sidechain source, I'm going to go to track 1 because that is what I want the sidechain source to be. So every time the kick hits, I'm going to set my threshold to suit, and then what that's going to do is, on my setup page, because I've routed every other page into the actual mixer, it's going to duck every other channel bar the kick. So I'll just play it for example. So I'm going to press play. Make sure my compressor is wet. So that is the compressor and sidechain compression within the Digitakt 2. I'll probably leave it at that for this video now. So that is the arrangement sort of look and how we can arrange tracks and use song mode to utilize the patterns that we've put together. Just different sound design techniques, all placed in different patterns. We can combine them patterns into a song mode, which we can then use as performance in a live performance environment without affecting the patterns that we've built. So all we've got to do is basically just come out of that, and then all the patterns are back to its normal state. In the next video, I would like to utilize Overbridge, so I'm just going to wait on that until that is released. And then we'll want to take my audio from the Digitakt, all the 16 channels, into my DAW, and from there I can then mix it down and to make it sound nice and clean and professional. Not that this machine doesn't do that anyway. This is just a nice tool for me to get my stuff down, get my ideas down, using the sequencer and different sort of elements quickly. I just like to use this and use it in my DAW to really hone in on different sort of tracks, make sure that they're not clashing, and this, that, and the other, and just add a bit more, maybe a bit more groove and a bit more sidechain to this and this and this and whatnot. So I hope you're enjoying this video series so far, and as soon as the Overbridge comes out, I will get on obviously making some more videos for this video series. So until then, I will see you in the next one.